one of their daughters was about 13 years old at the time, and she was working in my great aunt said Boaz house. The Boaz, like the head farmer that owned the village, because you figure the serfs weren't freed in the Uckermark. The serfs weren't freed until between 1800 and 1810. And then just like the slaves here, they were worse off after they got freed than when they were serfs, because when they were serfs, they were bound to the estate they lived on, and they couldn't even go to the next village without permission from the landowner. And
in exchange, though, he was bound to take care of them.
That was when they got a suit of clothes every year. They could use the common pasture land. They could take wood from the woodlots in the forest. They could pick up wood, and if they didn't have any kids to take care of them, he had to take care of them when they got too old to work. He had to make sure that someone looked at them and fed them, and So
and this is the feudalism that Napoleon.
It's still the end of the feudalism, yeah.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, and, would break up later. Yeah.
Then it broke up. But anyway, this my great grandmother was working as a maidservant in the manor house. So she goes to work and she says to the lord of the manor, she says, "My father says we're gonna go to America." And he says, "Oh, no, you don't want to go to America. You stay here with us." So she goes back and she tells her father that, and her father says, "No, if I'm not leaving any of my children here. If we go, we're all going." So this went back and forth for a while, sure. And finally, the lord of the manor said, "All right, you go with your family, but if you don't like it, you write back to me, and I'll pay your passage back to us, and you can stay working as a servant in the manor house."
There's also the notion of indentured servants here, basically slaves. Yeah. Before the 1860s, that was still allowable.
Now, right? Some of them, if you look at the list in the back of Eugene's books, some of the single young men and single young women come by themselves, and it'll be listed as maid or laborer, something like that. Mm-hmm. A few are farmer. They must have been maybe boys that inherited money from their parents or something, and were able to have their own land. But so there's a possibility there that where it's listed as maid, those young women might have come with the understanding that they were working for a family like the Salingrays. They had a huge Foxbrook Manor house right where the Devonshire farm is now, or somewhere in there where the zoo was. And that.
Oh, yeah, right.
The zoo is way before your time, but
right.
But you can still see the fence in that where the zoo was. There was a great big Foxbrook Manor house there.
Oh, wow.
And Salingray, he came over in 1843. He was a Huguenot and he had funds. But his wife didn't want to leave her family. She was also a Huguenot, and she had an inheritance from her father, but she couldn't bring it with her. She couldn't take it out of the country. So she said, "No, I don't want to go." So after about a year, they missed each other so much. He's one of the few that actually went back. He went back the next summer because he figured it took between 6 weeks and 2 months to get across the ocean either way.
In total at the time, with all the arrangements and all that too.
And first, there were no steamships yet then, there were sailboats. And
right.
He knocked out there at night and he threw a pebble at her bedroom window, the story goes. And she said, "Who's there?" And he said who it was. And she let him in and she said, "Yes, I'll go back with you this time." Well, they had no children. So I think it's on her side. She had Devontiers. And he let it be known among the nephews over in Germany that because they had no children and obviously would never have any children, he let it be known that they, whoever wanted to come and start helping him on the farm would inherit his estate over here. So one of the Devontier boys came over here, and all the Devontiers in in the U.S., in this area, and our villages to the west, they all descend from that one Devontier.
Talk about ripples in a pond.
In fact, there was one boy, when the teacher brought them into the iron house, I said after showing them something, I said, "Is anybody here from the families?" And there was 2 or 3 of them that were from our families. And then she said, "Oh, and so, his grandmother was a Devontier." And so I told them the story about the Devontier things. That was just 4th grade, so I don't know if they'll remember it or not. But getting back to the Wickups, she met when back then, still into the 1860s, you had to go into, when you got to be 14, 15, you'd either go into the military if you were male or the merchant marine. And my great-great-grandfather, Fosteen, had picked the merchant marine. So he was working on this boat that the Whitcup family was on in the 1862 or 1863. Somewhere I've got a buried email from Randy, and I'll have to find it because he actually found the ship's record for them.
Oh, great.
And they got real friendly on the boat and kind of fell in love. And then he finished out his merchant marine over there service. And then he came over here and worked on farms for a little bit. And they got married. And then she wanted a store. So they bought I don't know if I have the picture here, maybe. They bought the building that was there from a Mr. Stefan, who I have deeds now that Doris Walver had given me that she found in Aunt Hilda's house, that White House. My great-grandmother built that house around 1920.
Yeah, it's been vacant for several years now, at least.
Well, what's it called? David Holmes bought the land from my father, inherited it with his brother and his cousin. And I actually wanted the house, but where I was living at the time, I was living in a beautiful apartment on Ashland and you know where Ashland and Summer is, and just this side of Allentown, just about 5 houses down from that corner. Sometimes this is a real call.
Sure, that's okay.